So AI allows you to work on the business versus in the business. So for example, if you have to review a legal document, then AI can go and scroll through and figure out, hey, all of this is boilerplate except for this 15%. So it allows that business person then to have an hour and 40 minutes to actually work on the business rather than always being in the business. Or for example, if you're in marketing and you have to write a press release, that normally takes you 2 hours, but generative AI allows you to write that in 15 minutes. Now you have another hour and 45 minutes to actually work on the business rather than always just being running as fast as you can, hair on fire, always in the business. Now you can actually work on the business. So AI allows you to do that, be more strategic and innovative. There are some ethical pitfalls when it comes to AI, and pitfalls in general. So Geoffrey Hinton, who is heading up, who's considered the godfather of AI, quit Google because he was concerned when they launched Bard. And that concern can run the gamut. It can run the gamut from the extreme. So the extreme scenario would be that as machines learn and artificial intelligence learns, it takes a lot of electricity. So the Hollywood version would be all of a sudden AI determines, hey, I need electricity more than the humans need electricity. Let me steal all the electricity and shut things down. So that's at the extreme. Other things that are here and now, obviously there's biases that are baked into artificial intelligence because it's consuming different content, and there's biases within that content because that's written by humans. So if you think about garbage in, garbage out, that can happen, especially if the data set is small. As these data sets get large, so think about Wikipedia, if it's a large article in Wikipedia, it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be a lot better than Encyclopedia Britannica per se, versus a smaller article on Wikipedia might have some errors and flaws because there just isn't that scale, that volume. So there can be some biases when it comes to artificial intelligence, but those get weeded out as you continue to scale. Now, the biggest question facing us in the short term is when you think about artificial intelligence, it's going out and quote unquote scraping the web, right? It's getting this information primarily from the internet. Well, in there, it's scraping some copyrighted content. So that's becoming a big issue. So when the New York Times recently blocks artificial intelligence from consuming any of the content, now you have less good content going into the quote unquote machine. So you have garbage in, garbage out. So really the copyright issue is really the biggest ethical item that's facing all of us the here and now. But there's a lot of other ramifications as we move down the road. Yeah, you always want to future-proof yourself. So I always say when it comes to digital leadership, it's all about thinking about, okay, I got to stay a year ahead of the competition, but never a year ahead of the market. So a lot of us get too far ahead and become bleeding edge rather than cutting edge. So how do we future-proof ourselves and future-proof our organizations? Well, that's exactly what I do on a day-to-day level, is research to figure out what are the habits that will stand the test of time. What are the core habits when it comes to digital leadership, knowing that technology changes every second, but human nature never does? How do you have those crossroads between the offline and that online that all digital leaders understand? So that's the best way to future-proof yourself from innovation all the way to transformation, is to use these time-tested habits that stand the test of time. It doesn't matter that technology just changed right now, is that these habits are going to last forever. So that's the key, is having that balance between those two and always reminding yourself, hey, I just need to be 1 year ahead of the competition. That's it, 1 year ahead of the competition, but never a year, never too far ahead of my partners, my teammates, my clients, and my customers. So that's the key. So we look at socialnomics as just word of mouth on digital steroids, or word of mouth goes to world of mouth. But what the heck does that mean? It means if you're trying to engage your customers in the here and now, social media is one of the best avenues to do that, because 93% of all consumers' decisions are influenced by social media. Let me repeat that because it's really important. 93% of all consumers' decisions, no matter what market you're in, are influenced heavily by social media. So that's the key. It's really not It's really about that human connection. When you think about, a lot of people get confused that social media is all about technology. Absolutely not. There's tech involved, but it's really about those relationships and those relationships that you build. So that's why I always said, look, no matter what you do, no matter what you sell, whether you're profit, nonprofit, B2B, B2C, your best customers, your best clients always historically come from word of mouth. Now, when you think about social media, all that is, it's simply word of mouth on digital steroids, or as I mentioned, word of mouth is now world of mouth. Now you have speed and scale for the best way for you to engage with your customers. That's it. You've got that speed and that scale that was never before possible with simply word of mouth. And so that's the beauty of it. The best way to improve focus is get to that first principle. Always ask yourself, be intentional. This is as individuals and also as teams, because obviously teams are made of individuals. So it's important. When I'm on stage, that's what I make sure is I got to address and approach it from an individual perspective, because that's going to roll up to the team perspective and that's going to roll up to the organizational perspective. So when you think about how do I focus better on big things versus busy ones, always get to this one question, always get to the first principle from a standpoint of asking yourself, what is the one thing that if we do it well, will make everything else either easier or unnecessary? That's it. You start with that base. What's the one thing, if we do it well, it makes everything else either easier or unnecessary? And try as best as you can. There's a lot of habits that I go over, but it's really about the habits to make sure you focus on that one big thing, thinking big versus busy. So whenever I'm on stage, my whole goal, when I go, I'm back there, I'm kind of breathing, doing my breathing exercise, doing some weird voice exercises to make sure I keep my voice as I go from city to city. But whenever I address an audience, before I go on stage, I always want to make sure, all right, I've got to entertain this audience, because that allows them to kind of lean in, so they're actually receptive to change. So entertain, then educate. So they're being entertained, so now I'm open to that education. And that education always leads to that empowerment, meaning, okay, I can do this and I want to do it. I want to do something different and change. Now, I always sit and tell the audience, I was just actually in California for a sales kickoff with Qualcomm, and they had people from over 50 countries, all different levels in the organization, all different key performance indicators, KPIs. And so on the stage, I said, look, I've got an hour here. I'm going to go over a lot of things right now. But the hope is, even though I'm going over a lot of stuff, everyone in here is different. Everyone's different from a business perspective and also from what's going on in your personal life perspective. So my hope is that you just get one thing. That's right. Just one thing that you're going to take away that you're going to use not only 5 seconds from today, but also 5 years and 15 years down the road. So no matter what's going to change, and when we think about it, what I just mentioned is that technology changes every second, but human nature, never does. So my whole goal today is you take one thing away that you're going to start using not only 5 seconds from when I leave this stage, but also 5 years and 15 years down the road.